Hello dear learners. According to latest economic survey data, agriculture sector provides employment to 42.38% people in India, contributes 16.5% to the national income and 7.29% of total export from the country. Even after 73 years of independence, still India is facing a lot of problems and constraints in agriculture development. In this video, I'll explain problems or constraints in agriculture development in India. In the previous video, I had discussed the role of agriculture in Indian economy. If you are interested, you can watch the video. I have given the link in the description box. So let's start with the topic and request you to watch till the end. And if you find it helpful, please like it. And if you have not subscribed my channel yet, please subscribe. You don't have to pay for it. It's for free. So let's start with the topic constraints in agriculture development. The first point is heavy dependence on monsoon. The agriculture sector in India largely depends on monsoon. In many ways, the monsoon is the lifeblood of India's farm-dependent economy. According to an estimate, irrigated area accounts for nearly 48.8% of the 140 million hectare of agricultural land in India. The remaining 51.2% is rain-fed. The mean productivity of rain-dependent area is about 1.1 tonne per hectare compared to 2.8 tonne per hectare of irrigated area. So here you can see there is a significant difference in productivity between irrigated area and rain-fed area. This shows the importance of irrigation project development. So because of the fluctuation in monsoon, the production also fluctuates. A year of abundant rain will result into abundant output, and if there is shortage of monsoon, there will be shortage of food grain. More than 40% of India's population works in agriculture, and monsoon rains directly affect their incomes and livelihood. This leads to price, income and employment fluctuation. So there is a need of construction of minor irrigation works of a local nature, and it is very urgent and important. In fact, the total water potential in the country is more than adequate to irrigate the whole areas under cultivation. But the present problem is of discovering cheap and easy methods of utilizing these vast supplies of water. So government needs to develop irrigation infrastructure further to help agriculture sector become less dependent on monsoon. So this is the first point, first constraint in agriculture development, that is developing the irrigation projects in the country. The next point is cropping pattern. Cropping pattern refers to the proportion of land under cultivation of different crops at different points of time. There are three different cropping patterns: mixed cropping, intercropping and crop rotation. Mixed cropping means growing two or more crops simultaneously on the same piece of land, whereas intercropping means growing two or more crops simultaneously in the same field in a definite pattern, whereas crop rotation means changing the type of crops grown in the field each season or each year, or changing from crops to fallow land. For example, planting maize one year and the beans next year. The crops that are grown in India are divided into two parts, that is food crops and non-food crops. And we have three seasons, cropping seasons in our country, that is Rabi, Kharif and Zaid. There must be this food and non-food crops grown in a balanced manner. But still, there is a deficiency of pulses and oilseeds production in the country. We need to import from other country. Therefore, following desired cropping pattern is important for overall agriculture development in the country. Next point is land ownership. We have in India small and fragmented land ownership. Though the ownership of agriculture land in India is fairly widely distributed, there is some degree of concentration of land holding. Inequality in land distribution is also due to the fact that there are frequent changes in land ownership in India. It is believed that large parcels of land in India are owned by a relatively small section of rich farmers, landlords and money lenders, while the vast majority of farmers own very little amount of land or no land at all. According to agriculture census, the average size of holdings was 2.28 hectares in 1970-71, the first agriculture census, which was reduced to 1.5 hectares in 1995, and further it is reduced to 1.08 hectares in 2015-16, the latest agriculture census. The size of holdings will further decrease with the infinite subdivision of land holdings. The small and marginal holdings taken together, that is from 0 to 2 hectares land, constitute 86.08% of total holdings in the latest census, that is 2015-16. The problem of small and fragmented holdings is more serious in densely populated and intensively cultivated states like Kerala, West Bengal, Bihar and eastern part of Uttar Pradesh, where average size of land holdings is less than 1 hectare, and in certain parts it is less than even 0.5 hectare. The main reason for this sad state of affairs is our inheritance laws. Due to the growth of population and breakdown of the joint family system, there has occurred continuous subdivision of agricultural land into smaller and smaller plots. Subdivision of land leads to fragmentation of holdings. When the size of holdings becomes smaller and smaller, cultivation becomes uneconomic. As a result, a major portion of land is not brought under proper cultivation, and advantages of large-scale farming cannot be derived, and cost per unit with uneconomic holdings is high. Output per hectare is very low. As a result, farmers cannot generate sufficient marketable surplus, so they are not only poor but are often in debt. So such subdivision and fragmentation make the efficient use of land virtually impossible and add to the difficulties of increasing capital equipment on the farm. All these factors account for the low productivity of Indian agriculture, so which becomes the obstacle in the way of agriculture development. The next point is land tenure system. Land tenure refers to the way in which land is held by an individual from the government. It shows the relationships between the landholder and the state. The absolute ownership of land rests with the government. Land tenure system of India is far from perfect. Under British rule, there were 3 main types of land tenure system in India. They were Zamindari, Mahalwari and Rayatwari system. In the pre-independence period, most tenants suffered from insecurity of tenancy. They could be evicted anytime. However, various steps have been taken after independence to provide security of tenancy. After independence, most of the states passed the legislation for abolition of zamindari and similar exploitative land tenure systems. Now, land tenure systems like zamindari, mahalwari, etc. are abolished in all the states in the country. But it took many years to completely abolish this zamindari system. But still, there is a system called Batai system, which is exploitative. The land is mostly leased in on Batai basis, where the landowner and the sharecropper have to share input cost, but the produce is shared equally. Mostly the sharecroppers had to bear the entire input cost. However, the produce is shared equally. So this is another problem or constraint in the agriculture development. Next point is conditions of agriculture laborers. The conditions of most agriculture laborers in India are far from satisfactory. There is the problem of surplus labor or disguised unemployment. This pushes the wage rates below the subsistence levels. What is disguised unemployment? The disguised employment refers to the situation in which people work at a place where they are not needed. Disguised unemployment exists frequently in developing countries whose large population create a surplus in the labor force. It can be characterized by low productivity and frequently accompanies informal labor markets and agricultural labor markets which can absorb substantial quantities of labor. So, if condition of labor is not good, it will affect the productivity of agriculture sector. So, we need to improve the condition of agricultural labor to develop the agriculture sector. The next point is system and techniques of farming in the agriculture sector. And under this heading, the first point is neglect of crop rotation. Successful conduct of agriculture operations depends upon a proper rotation of crops. If cereals are grown on a plot of land, its fertility is reduced to some extent. This can be restored if other crops such as pulses are grown on the same plot on a rotational basis. Most farmers in India are illiterate and do not understand this important point. Since they are not aware of the need for crop rotation, they use the same type of crop and consequently land loses its fertility considerably. The next point is inadequate use of manures and fertilizers. The inadequate use of manures like cow dung, vegetable waste, etc. and chemical fertilizers makes Indian agriculture much less productive than developed countries or even Chinese agriculture. Next point is use of poor quality seeds. In India, not much use has been made of improved varieties of seeds. The main cereals, rice, millets and pulses are still grown, chiefly with unimproved seeds. Next is inadequate use of efficient farm equipment. The method of cultivation in most areas of India are still primitive. Most farmers continue to use native plough and other accessories. But the problem is not one of shortage of modern machinery. The real problem is that of units of cultivation are too small to implement the use of such machinery. The next problem or constraint in agriculture development in India is problem of agriculture marketing. One of the major causes of low income of Indian farmers is the difficulty in marketing their crops, and this is due to small size and scattered nature of agriculture holdings. The productivity per acre is low. Consequently, the collection of these surpluses for the purpose of marketing presents a serious problem. Agriculture marketing problems arise due to the lack of communication as well. Connecting the producing centers with the urban areas which are the main centers of consumption. The difficulty of communication prevents the farmer from marketing his own produce, so he has to rely on number of middlemen for the disposal of his crops at cheap prices. Next important constraint in agriculture development is agriculture credit. The typical Indian farmer is almost always in debt. The farmer is a perennial debtor. Once the farmer falls into debt due to crop failure or low prices of crops or malpractices of moneylenders, he can never come out of it. In fact, a large part of the liabilities of farmers is ancestral debt. So, along with his landed property, he passes on his debt to his successors. And the farmers use the credit, the loan money, for unproductive purposes. That is also a wrong practice. And the next point, the last point, is agricultural prices. In order to increase food production, it is necessary to ensure prices of food grains, and it should be set by the government from time to time. Sufficient incentives should be given to the farmers so that they can earn a reasonable income. In India, bumper crop leads to fall in revenue of farmers, so there is a need for price stabilization. In view of the rising and fluctuating trends in agriculture prices, there is need for a stabilization of prices of agriculture commodities. Price fluctuation in any direction may spell disaster, since both rising and falling prices have had harmful consequences. So we have a system of procurement price and minimum support price to help the farmers. So these all are the important and very significant points in relation to constraints or problems in agriculture development in India. So thanks for watching. Thanks. Don't forget to give your comments and feedback.